All right, back here on NFL Inside Report as we continue our roster reset series. Got a chance to talk NFC North with our pals here from NFL Media, Steve Wyche and Kevin Patra. Now venturing into the NFC South, where obviously the biggest transaction that was made was the one that was very short-lived, and that was the retirement of Tom Brady. He is back, and now what does this mean here for the rest of the division as they are all searching for a long-term answer at quarterback? Meanwhile, though, Steve and then Kevin, love to have you jump in here. The Bucs are sitting pretty, even though Bruce Arians retired as the head coach and moved into the front office role. Todd Bowles steps in as the new head coach. It still feels like continuity there in Tampa. So is this the Bucs division to lose, Steve?
Yeah. This is like the most slam dunk, the slam dunk affirmative answer we could have here in the NFL this year. And it's so funny because before Bruce Arians retired or transitioned, I spoke to him about this. I was like, come on. I mean, every other quarterback in the division, he's like, Steve, they're all high first round picks. Jameis Darnold, and Mariota.
Okay. Yeah.
I was like, okay, Bruce, you're I don't think you're going to be selling the ocean to the folks,
right?
In Hawaii right now with that one. But I mean, come on. I mean, you have Brady, you have continuity, very little change on the coaching staff. Brady coming back, you got Ryan Jensen back, you got Carlton Davis back. I mean, all the guys, who
Chris Godwin will be back at some point, right?
Chris Godwin will be back at some point. So they're all going to be back. So yes, this is their division to lose. If nothing else, who's going to stop them?
Well,
who's got a defense? I mean, the Saints have a defense.
I will say the Saints are acting like a team that thinks they can compete. Whether you believe that they can or not, it doesn't matter because they are acting like a team that they're going to get 2 first-round picks now. If they bring in Tyrann Mathieu, which they're visiting with him, who knows if they can find the money. Like all their actions suggest that they believe we can go get the Bucs. I don't know what.
Well, they beat the Bucs.
Yeah,
they beat, and no matter when it is, they beat the Bucs. I don't know what that is.
Whether we believe that they can or not, they certainly believe that they have the firepower to go do it. They're acting like a team that does, at least.
Yeah, man, it's just it's hard pressed for me to find a team that'll be like, okay, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's the Saints. Saints would be the biggest competition in my mind. They'll have some continuity at quarterback if Jameis Winston is good to go. And he was playing well before he got injured.
But who's going to block Shaq Barrett?
Great question. Great question. And look, maybe that's a part of what the Saints were doing with the trade with the Eagles to acquire an additional first-round pick and to move up 2 spots from their 18. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit when we get to the draft needs for these teams. But it feels like that might have just been a stepping stone move for the Saints, and maybe there's a bigger move yet to come here. We'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, I think we're all in agreement here that we could just go ahead and put it in pen. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the champions of the NFC South, and if they're not, this clip will be replayed forever. Okay.
Fine.
So let's get a glimpse at what the South now looks like with some of the movement that we've seen here, kind of like we did in our last segment. Kevin's going to take the Bucs and the Panthers and assign some grades to them, and Steve's got the Saints and the Falcons. So since we're keeping with the Bucs conversation here, Kevin, what do you make of this offseason that, again, has been very similar to the one we saw last year and bringing guys back?
I mean, you just said it. Everybody's coming back. I mean, you lose a couple of guys on the line. Ali Marpet retires. That's not an easy fix. But then you go trade for Shaq Mason. The Patriots basically give him to you. So, I mean, everything we saw, the continuity is huge. I don't want to be – I'm not trying to dance on Bruce Arians' grave or anything. But to me, Todd Bowles taking over is an upgrade. I just think I think that's going to work out well. You're going to give Brady a little more autonomy with Leftwich.
You're feeding into the rift conversation here. Okay.
I don't even. It doesn't even have to be a rift. I just think that it's just going to be a smoother sailing where the captain necessarily wasn't there. It's fine. So that's where I personally stand. I don't care about the rift, but I think it's going to be an upgrade at that position. And they've done everything they need. They kept all the guys. Godwin's not going anywhere. Grabbing Russell Gage from the Falcons was a steal, in my opinion. Maybe the steal of the offseason that nobody's talking about. Like, he is a legit receiver, and to be a number 3 in that offense, we saw what they needed when Antonio Brown wasn't there and how they lost a little bit. He's going to slide right in and be awesome, I think, in that offense. I think Bucs fans need to keep an eye on that because he's very, very good. Outside of some O-line questions going into the draft and the defensive line, that I'm sure that they'll pluck a few veterans. Maybe Sue comes back later on in the process. There's really not a question with Carlton Davis coming back in the secondary. There's not really huge question marks moving forward. I think this was an A- roster going in, and I think I keep him right there. Right.
Yeah,
Not much has changed in my opinion.
Yeah, and by the way, you're not alone on your point on Russell Gage. Our analytics expert Cynthia Freeland actually has Russell Gage as her favorite free agency move of the entire season, which is certainly saying something there. Okay, Steve, if we view the Saints as the biggest competition then to the Bucs, let's move there in the pecking order in this division. How do you view what happened now as we begin the Dennis Allen era with Sean Payton out of the picture?
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's the biggest change. You're talking to Mickey Loomis at the league meetings. He's like, it's going to be completely different because, Sean had the authoritarian rule. Not that he ruled it like an authoritarian, but he had all-wielding power. That's not going to be the case with Dennis Allen. There's going to be more of a shared branches of government, so to speak. It's a change, but if James comes back healthy, they did themselves safety by signing Andy Dalton in case there's some leeway there. Signing Marcus May at safety after losing Marcus Williams. I thought
that was a great move. I thought Marcus May was a great move, Steve. Yeah.
It was a great move because Marcus Williams is going to Baltimore. That's a dude who covers a lot of territory and gets his hands on balls. Marcus May and what Dennis Allen does with the type of pressure they can get up front is going to be good. But, of course, the big question is losing Teron Armstead at left tackle. He was just a great player, a great athlete, great pass protector. That's clearly going to be a draft need there. So coming in, I look at the roster. It's kind of a B- type of roster. I got to drop him down a little bit because losing Teron Armstead is I mean, come on, you got a Pro Bowl left tackle, and he goes because you can't afford him. That's a tough blow.
Yeah, no doubt. And he's missed some games in his career, a couple games here in the last few years. But Andrews Pete has also missed time, so that left side is really kind of tenuous in terms of continuity and in terms of durability and staying power for a full 16-game season.
And real quick though, I do not want to take away anything from that defense. That defense is one of the best in the NFL, and we continue to overlook Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, all those guys. Shouldn't. They're great players. Marshawn Lattimore.
Yeah. What do you got, Kev?
I just wanted to question, are we just assuming Michael Thomas is coming back and going to be fully healthy? And because that feels like the Saints are.
Yeah, kind of have to because they are.
That's a great point. I mean, Michael Thomas is huge.
Yeah.
The fact catch and run guy, tough 50-50 guy. That's huge for whoever's coming in. So
he missed a year. So I just wonder if we're always assuming that he's going to be dominant MVP sort of guy, and he missed a whole year with a foot injury, which he
missed most of 2 years.
Right.
I feel like we haven't really seen him since he set the record against the Panthers.
I am assuming he is going to be gangbusters.
I hope
he's
so.
He's that dude.
I like it. All right, let's move back then to the Panthers here, Kevin, who have sort of swung and missed in the quarterback market a number of times here, at least reportedly, for Deshaun Watson, for Russell Wilson, for whomever else was available out there. And so here they sit now with Sam Darnold still on the roster. What do you make of the moves that they have made outside of that QB spot?
I really like the roster outside of two things, the quarterback and the offensive line. Unfortunately, that's massively how often teams succeed in the NFL is the quarterback and blocking for the quarterback. So that's huge. I mean, I love the defense. Bringing back Dante Jackson was a big signing, I think, to solidify that back end. DJ Moore is the man. I think he's so underrated. We don't talk about him enough, and re-signing him was huge. On an extension. I think most of what the Panthers have done this season is like mid-level ads, like Matt Ioannidis, Littleton, Damian Williams, Xavier Woods on defense, like kind of just plug in these middle guys, adding Deontay Foreman in the backfield to pair with Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey's health, as always, is a huge role. I mean, this was a C+ roster to me, and I hate to kind of repeat what I did, and it's a C+ roster again. And the only reason it's that, because I don't trust Sam Darnold. To me, he's not the answer. The Panthers have told us everything they've tried to do, that he's not the answer to them either. Trying to go after Watson, trying to get, calling about Rodgers and all Russell Wilson, all these things. I mean, for 2 years, they've tried to not have him be the quarterback, and he's still the quarterback. So to me, we'll get into it when we get to their draft pick, but it has to be quarterback early to me. And if not, offensive line is a huge issue as well. And until they fix those two things, like I said, I love the rest of the roster. I just can't get behind it until those two issues are fixed. And they weren't.
I like Taylor Moton over there on the right side, right tackle.
What did you do on the left side?
What do you do at the left, right? You spent big money on the right side. Now, how do we fix the left side? Certainly part of the equation there. Let's move to the Atlanta Falcons. You want to talk about a team in transition now as they go into year 2 with Terry Fontenot as the GM, Arthur Smith as the head coach, but without Steve Wyche, Matt Ryan as the face of the franchise and the quarterback. Also kind of swung and missed on Deshaun Watson there. So dealing with the fallout. What do you got here for the Atlanta Falcons?
Yeah, this isn't good because, look, no one's going to fault him for taking a shot at Deshaun Watson, but having to trade Matt Ryan, and it didn't seem like they had a plan B in place, right? And it just optically looks terrible. What they did at their quarterback situation, signing Casey Hayward at a corner, that's nice. It's a nice buffer because A.J. Terrell, you talk about a player, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, nobody knows his name. This guy, one of the best defensive players in the NFL. So that helps, but they got no edge rusher.
Right.
Grady Jarrett, very good defensive tackle. You lose your best player on defense other than A.J. Terrell and Foye Oluokun. So their defense is weakened. They did what they had to do because they have no money, right? So they're piecemealing guys, 1-year deals. Marcus Mariota is now your quarterback. He actually fits the system, but then we know him as a starter, he's got durability issues. Mm-hmm. Who's behind him?
Felipe.
Rhett, are you good? You good, Rhett?
Felipe Franks?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So
you're right. DJ Shockley, can he come out of the booth?
Get Shock and come out of the booth. So, you got those issues. You re-sign Cordell Patterson. That's great. Oh, wait, who's catching the ball for you? Cordell Patterson again? I mean, their skill positions. Find me a roster in the NFL that has less threatening skill positions. I mean, and these are issues. They got Damian Williams. I like him at running back, but they came in with a C- roster. They dropped down to a D, because of the quarterback situation.
Yeah.
The guys, this reminds me of the Raiders back when Reggie McKenzie and Dennis Allen took over in 2012, where they were in salary cap hell. They couldn't fix it. For 2 years, they had to sign guys on 1-year deals before they found a quarterback. And then all of a sudden they hit the mother load with Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper and Derek Carr. But then again, they get rid of Amari Cooper,
half of them.
Khalil Mack. I don't think that's going to happen there. But so, waiting till next year is always a dangerous thing for me. Because you just don't know the guys you like in the draft could turn out to have bad seasons, get hurt. So they better be real effective here. I mean, they've got some ammo to do it, but they better nail it because it's pin the tail on the donkey when it comes to their draft board. You can just put that tack anywhere and you can hit it.
Well, let's do it right there at 8, since we're talking about it there with the Falcons. They're not the first team on the board in the NFC South. We'll get to the Panthers here in just a moment at number 6. But since we're talking Falcons, let's go 8. I think wide receiver, you could get the first wide receiver off the board at number 8, unless you love one of these quarterbacks, Steve Wyche.
I think Malik Willis is going to be real tempting for them at 8 because of the system they play, right? The mobile quarterback system. They know today's football game, if you got a guy who can press with the run but also have the big arm. But he'll admit it. Hugh Freeze, as coach at Liberty, will admit it. He didn't see any type of tough defenses in terms of scheme because of the run threat at that level. You had a spy on him, and everything else was base. He was not seeing a lot of blitzes and mixed coverages. So this is a developmental year if they were to go that route. I think, it's going to be hard for them if Kayvon Thibodeau or one of these edge rushers is sitting there at 8 for them to pass. Or one of the top DBs. It's going to be I think getting Casey Hayward could put the DB part into later rounds.
Yeah.
But they got to go edge or they got to go O-line here. But again, it's pin the tail on the donkey.
Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame, could be there at 8, which would be interesting.
He could be there at 8. That would be
Garrett Wilson. Could be the first wide receiver. I get it. You may be putting cart before the horse there, but
No, they've got to get some skill position players. Yeah. I mean, again, they are bereft when it comes to having any type of home run player except for A.J. Terrell, at that corner.
Yeah. Kevin, the Carolina Panthers sitting at number 6, Matt Rule saying at the league meeting this past week that he expects a quarterback to be taken in the top 10.
Right. It should be him.
is he going to be the one to take one?
I would think so. I mean, I think so. Maybe that's where Kenny Pickett jumps in. Malik Willis, can Matt Rule afford to take a bye year and a developmental year with a guy like Willis? But then David Tepper, I think he's kind of the wild card. Is he going to be like, I'm the owner, I want this guy, I think he's going to be a dynamic player, and you're going to take him, and you might not be here when he's good, but this is the guy I want. I think you have to go QB, and I guess if they don't believe that answer, then you go offensive tackle with whoever's the next up on the board at 6. But I just can't get around them, what they've done at quarterback this offseason and during the season, shuffling in and out Cam Newton, Sam Darnold in and out, and to believe that they're going to stick with Darnold here. I just don't believe it.
Yep. Let's move to the Saints then, Steve Wyche, as we look at the move that they made with the Philadelphia Eagles, giving up a future 1 and a future 2 to take one of the Eagles' 2 picks that will really take 2 of their picks and then also give them their 18th. So the Saints end up with 16 and 19. Eagles end up with 15 and 18. Seems like such a weird trade to make at this point. That feels like something you maybe would have seen like on draft night to move up 2 spots, right? So to me, and we were talking about this on Path to the Draft, Steve, it feels like maybe this is a move like the Bills made when they moved up from 21 to 12 and then to 7 to take Josh Allen in the top 10, or like the Eagles did when they went from, 13 to 8 and then to 2 to take Carson Wentz. Do they love one of these quarterbacks? Again, is that kind of the biggest question here.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
You're not going to need all that. You're not going to need all that.
Right.
If you love them, you're not. I mean, I don't know. I can't see to say you're not going to need all that because somebody may get up there. But this clearly, and speaking to some folks, this is for flexibility for them to move up or down. Because again, do you move up to get one of these tackles? I think. Again, we talk about that. That is the glaring need right now. Is one of these offensive tackles. So maybe you can use one of these picks. That 19th pick or whatever, and something else to move up into the top 12 to get one of these offensive tackles. I think that's what the flexibility gives them. And I think it's economics as well.
Yeah.
To get those 2 first-round draft picks, you can get that 5th year for both of them, regardless of the position.
Right.
That you have. So I think economics factors into what they're doing here. But that flexibility, I cannot see them going quarterback right now. This team is in win now mode. You look at the age of the players on that defense. I think this is probably something where they're going to try to upgrade at tackle, maybe add a wide receiver to that team as well.
Kevin, let's finish it up here with the Tampa Bay Bucs and a team that finished and now will sit as the 27th overall pick here in the first round. I think again, this is a roster that's in a pretty good spot, to kind of take, whoever the best player on their board is, as every team says they do anyway. But how do you see it?
I think you go defensive line, maybe edge rusher. You build on Tryon Shaninka that you brought in last year at the end of the first round. You figure at some point Shaq Barrett will have to move on, and JPP is still a free agent, so you replenish there, or if one of the guard you like drops, and that's a spot where you can plug and play or build for the future when some guys are going to move on. They're in a great spot with depth. I don't think you can go wrong. I don't think they could go. I think Jason Light's in a great spot where, even if somebody wanted to jump back into the first round from the low end of the second, I could see them being like, okay, we'll move back and add another 3rd rounder dart.
Yeah. I could also see them saying, kind of to your point, this is a really good roster who's, in good shape, really at all the starting 22 offense, defense, and saying, you know what? Maybe down the road, Shaq Barrett will move on, and we don't know what's going to happen, outside of Tryon Shaninka. What if we go David Ajabo here from Michigan, knowing that we may not need him right away, and we give him some time to rehab that ruptured Achilles tendon, and then he comes back year 2, and man, we've got either 3 really good edge rushers here, or we've got one we can slide into a starting lineup if we need to.
The Titans did that with Simmons, and they loved how that worked out. Yeah, so I think that's a great point.
Yeah, so certainly one to look at there with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and that is a look at the NFC South and really taking care of both half of the NFC here, NFC North and South, now in the books. In our first episode here of our roster reset. Steve, Kevin, thanks so much for your time, guys.